Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a continental mystery that's going to completely change how you view ancient history. We like to think our ancient past is all neatly mapped out in the textbooks, right? But out there in the real world, there are these colossal, unsolved puzzles literally hiding in plain sight, just waiting to rewrite everything we thought we knew about early human civilization.
Picture this for a second. You're hiking through a remote valley, and suddenly you stumble upon thousands of enormous stone vessels just scattered across the landscape. Some of these things are absolutely massive, standing over 3 meters tall and weighing more than 10 tons. To put that into perspective, you're looking at carved rocks that weigh about as much as 2 fully grown elephants. And here is the kicker, folks. There are 0 written records of their builders, no inscriptions, no instruction manuals, just these breathtaking stone giants.
These silent sentinels are just resting on hillsides and mountain ridges without a clear origin. It really makes you wonder, why drag 10-ton stones to the absolute edge of a remote mountain ridge? Were they guarding something? Were they positioned for some kind of celestial alignment? We're looking at an ancient society with incredible ambition and geographic vision, yet they completely vanished into the mists of time without leaving a single clue behind.
Section 1. The Global Crime Scene.
Now, if this were just one single site, we might just write it off as a localized quirk. But look at this spread. Over in Laos, at the famous Plain of Jars, we have over 2,000 of these jars dating between 500 BCE and 500 CE, carved from distant quarries. Then, thousands of kilometers west in India, specifically Nagaland and Assam, remarkably similar jars are partially buried in forests, estimated to be over 2,000 years old. And all the way down in Indonesia's Bata Valley, we find jars with heavy lids, unfinished jars, and nearby carved human figures of uncertain age. We're talking about civilizations separated by thousands of kilometers with no known contact, somehow developing the exact same monumental tradition. It's wild.
Section 2. Myths, Burials, and Bones.
For decades, local legends in Laos insisted these jars were actually vats for giants. The story goes that a race of giants created the jars to brew rice wine after winning a great battle. And honestly, when you stand next to a 3-meter-tall stone vat, this myth makes total sense. If you can't figure out how a regular ancient human lifted it, blaming a thirsty giant is a pretty logical next step, right?
But as always, science steps in. Modern excavations point to a different, maybe slightly darker story. Digging around these sites, archaeologists have found a wealth of artifacts. Excavations reveal human bones, burial goods, pottery, beads, and iron tools. This hard evidence strongly suggests these sites were tied to complex burial or funerary rituals. But archaeology rarely gives us a straight answer without throwing a massive curveball first.
And here is that curveball. We have a baffling discrepancy. The age of the stone jars is actually significantly older than the age of the human bones. Let that sink in for a moment. These incredible monuments stood completely empty for generations, maybe even centuries, before a later culture stumbled upon them and decided, hey, let's use these as graves. So what were they originally built for? Food storage? Water collection? The original purpose remains entirely a mystery.
Section 3. An Engineering Puzzle.
Creating just one of these vessels demanded hundreds of hours of grueling labor. Think about the process. Step 1. You have to select massive sandstone, granite, or limestone blocks from quarries that were often miles away. Step 2. You carve out the interior using nothing but simple, ancient hand tools. And finally, Step 3. Transport the finished monument across incredibly difficult terrain to place it perfectly on a hilltop.
And they did all of this with zero modern technology. No wheels, no cranes, no engines. Imagine trying to haul 10 tons of solid rock up a mountain using just human strength, ropes, wood, and absolute sheer coordination. Doing this once is an engineering marvel. Pulling it off thousands of times across 3 unconnected regions of the world? That completely defies our current understanding of ancient human capabilities.
Section 4. Archaeology's Unsolved Mystery.
Thankfully, today's investigators are deploying a high-tech arsenal to crack this cold case. We're talking modern investigative tools like drone mapping to scan the canopies, ground-penetrating radar to look beneath the earth, radiocarbon dating to piece together that bizarre timeline of the bones, and 3D scanning to analyze tool marks in microscopic detail. These tools are actively finding more jars still hidden completely beneath dense jungles as we speak.
And the world is absolutely taking notice.
The Plain of Jars in Laos actually became a recognized UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2019. This is a huge deal because it protects these sites and brings in international research funding. It ensures that these blank pages of our shared human history aren't just lost forever to the jumble, and it reminds us just how much of our collective past is still waiting to be uncovered.
Yet as nearly identical monuments continue to emerge across these incredibly isolated lands, we are left staring at the ultimate haunting question. Who carved these gigantic jars and why? Until new clues are pulled from the earth, the giant stone jars are going to remain one of humanity's greatest unsolved mysteries. It's a pretty humbling reminder that there's still so much of our own story we just don't know. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the history you think you know, and I'll catch you